Well, for more on these raging fires in the Amazon, I'm now joined via Skype by an expert in tropical forests and fires at the Amazon Environmental Research Institute. And I'm joined by Assistant Professor Paulo Brando. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
All right, so President Bolsonaro apparently is downplaying the scale of these fires. But in the time that you've been watching the forests in the Amazon, have you seen anything like this in many years?
No, since 2010, we haven't seen anything like this. It's one of the worst environmental disasters of the decade. And Bolsonaro can downplay the numbers, but we can see what is happening with the satellites that are in place. We have the Brazilian Space Agency with one of the best monitoring systems of fire and deforestation in the region. So since 2010, that was a major drought, the fires haven't reached this level of activity.
So sadly, these fires are not uncommon. They happen frequently. But what is different this year? What's making them so strong and so dangerous?
It is very important to say that these fires in these two systems that we saw in the Pantanal and the Amazon, they are not natural. They may be common, but they are caused by people going to these fields and setting forests on fires or open fields on fire. So this is very important that they are not natural, even though they've been common in the region. And since two years ago or 3 years ago, we see a rise in deforestation in the region. So it's not that the Amazon is burning all this primary forest. It's just people going to these areas, cutting down tropical forest, the Amazon forest, piling it up and creating one of the biggest bonfires that our planet has ever seen. It's over 1,000 or 1,500,000 square kilometers of piled trees in the Amazon burning. And the danger is that these fires escape into forested regions, as we see in the drier portion of the Amazon. In the Pantanal, these fires, these wetlands, are also related to human activity. And what is very different this year, it is much drier than usual. And that has caused these fires, 9 fires, to get this gigantic scale and burn almost 20% of the entire system, one of the most biodiverse systems in the world, and with all this huge megafauna. So the damage is incalculable. It's huge.
We'll talk about the biodiversity and the ecological damage just now, but just to get a sense of why have authorities allowed this to carry on for so long?
The region is gigantic. The Amazon is about 5.5 million square kilometers, almost 5 times the size of South Africa. And to have this governance in the region is a big challenge. For a long time, indigenous reserves and protected areas in general protected this region. But we have almost 70 million hectares, 70 million soccer fields that are no man's land, that are this land that has no destination. And the people go invade those areas to steal land. And in the process, they clear forests and they burn this forest. And many of these fires escape into primary forest. So there's all this huge process of land speculation eating up the Amazon. And it's really hard to control and manage and monitor such a big, complex region. So we have to have these two things going together. Enforcement, we know we must be able to deter deforestation and illegal activities. And we have to create incentives, economic incentives, for people to do the right thing, which is follow the law, which doesn't allow much clearing, doesn't allow fires in the region. So all these things we've been seeing now in terms of deforestation and fire, they are illegal. And there is no governance enough in the region to stop them from happening. But we saw a period of hope in 2012
But
And I'm going to stop here.
All right. So we hear that President Bolsonaro, for some reason, it is not working hard enough and can almost be seen as encouraging some of this activity in these forests.
Yeah, so there are three things that work in the Amazon to stop deforestation, the fire. One of them is to make sure that the protected areas work, that the indigenous peoples have the rights to their lands, and that the farmers get fines when they do something wrong, and they have incentives to do the right thing. They have different price on what they produce. Bolsonaro has been weakened all those four elements in the region, even though there's this speech that things are going better, that there are some investments in enforcement, in incentives, there are investments in protected areas. What we see from the space and with our science is that that's not true. That's not at least working. We see a rise in deforestation. We see a rise in forest fires. We see a weakening in the capacity of the government to enforce this region. The Amazon Fund, for example, that it was almost $350 million to be invested in more sustainable practices in the region. It's just not working. The government just pulled that out. So there are several examples like that that point to the different direction. And the consequences we see now that we are looking at an increase in deforestation, increase in forest degradation, increase in forest fire.
All right, let's talk about the biodiversity. I mean, this is an ecological disaster. There must be hundreds and hundreds of different species under threat and maybe even facing extinction because of this. So,
yeah, the Amazon is the most diverse ecosystem in the world, in the planet. And as we clear forests, it's about 20% of the forests already gone. So what is 2/3 of the area of South Africa clear illegally for the expansion of mostly agriculture, large-scale mechanized, and some pastureland. And so this loss of habitat, of course, really have a big impact on all sorts of animals, insect populations, and trees. We have about 16,000 tree species in the region, just to give you an idea, hundreds of thousands of insect species. And as we put more and more pressure on this system, we start losing these animals. Something that is very important to say is not only the deforestation that is happening, but it is also all these different pressures that are occurring in the region. We have logging, we have fire, we have drought, we have rising temperature along with the deforestation. And that creates huge challenges to maintain this highly diverse system health.
Dr. Brando, that's all we have time for, unfortunately, but thanks very much indeed for sharing your insights with us on the program this evening, and we pray for rain to come soon and manage the situation. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay.